That's working, and now I press record. Okay, right on. So, welcome to the Soul on Fire podcast, where I interview cool people in the fields of holistic health, spiritual science, and conscious art. Today, I'm joined with Dr. Griffin, who is a cool dude who does interviews like this also. And that's how we kind of met. So yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to get to know you and hear your story, bro. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for having me.
How did you come to Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to figure out the most concise way to talk about it. Basically,
yeah.
I mean, it might take the whole hour to tell the story. Basically, in the year 2000, I was 13, and I had recently gotten into straight edge hardcore, and kind of before that, I was into like old school hip hop and breakdancing, and I was like really into Rage Against the Machine. And they got me kind of like into political activism. And so I was kind of into like, I don't know, I guess like, yeah, political activism, like political causes. At the time, it was like NAFTA, WTO, like anti-globalization, freedom for political prisoners like Mumia Abu-Jamal, who's still imprisoned right now. And Leonard Peltier, who's also still in prison right now, and stuff like that. And I would go out skateboarding in my neighborhood, and I happened to grow up about 2 blocks in Kansas City, Missouri, about 2 blocks away from the Brahmachari ashram of Rupanuga Vedic College, RVC. And it's funny because like I don't like RBC, like from my memory was always at 52nd and Paseo, and I grew up on 65th Terrace, and so I was like, did I make up, because obviously that's like 15 blocks away from where I grew up, and I was like, did I make up that like the Brahmachari ashram was 2 blocks away? Like I've been like second guessing myself lately about that, but then I just got a copy of this book Fortunate Souls by Danavir Goswami, and stamped on the inside, and I think he was like the person who started RBC, and stamped on the inside it said like Rupanuga Vedic College, 63rd and McGee or something. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. So there was a time where at some point, I think before it had really been established in the bigger building that it's in now, it was like just happened to be like 2 blocks away from where I grew up. So it was just kind of like one of those like weird things that was just like for a moment in time, like there was like a reason that they were there at that time,
right.
And then
sure.
like, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting how that works,
Yeah.
They were there for like as long as they needed to be, and then they like moved, because the place that they're at now is like, it's actually, I probably never would have crossed paths with any of the Brahmacharis. Right. Had it been there, from the start. But anyways, yeah, so I would be out skateboarding, usually wearing some t-shirt of like a hardcore band or like a straight edge band or whatever. And so I was 13 at the time, and some of the Brahmacharis must have been about like 18 or 19, and they would see me out, and they, I remember like I was always kind of like curious. I would see them at a distance, and I always thought I was like, are those guys like Buddhist monks or like what's up? Because I knew I was like went through like a big Buddhist phase when I was a really little kid. So I was like, yeah, so like I was like, I wonder if those guys are like Buddhist. And then eventually, like, just after seeing each other for a while, they started talking. They came up and they're like, oh hey, like I like your Youth Today shirt, like are you straight edge? And I was like, yeah, like totally. And then one of them gave me a copy of this book, The Higher Taste, which is like, I do book distribution now, and it's like funny that was like the first book that he gave me, because in the Krishna consciousness movement, I think a lot of people think of that book as just like a cookbook, like a small cookbook.
No, half of it is about philosophy.
Right. Yeah, totally. And like, so he gave me that book and kind of started, but it's like it's kind of like, it's not necessarily like the first book that you give to somebody, but he could just tell, I guess, like that was going to be the one that resonated with me. I guess because I don't know. Yeah. So he started talking to me about how, like, when you go to the grocery store and you see meat and it's like packaged nicely and it's on the shelf, it's super easy to just not think about how that was like a living being that had a family and fought for its life and didn't want to be murdered, and stuff like that. And he said that, and I was like, yeah, like, what, like, how have I never thought about that? Like, I literally, like, never even considered that,
Wow.
And it kind of like played on, my thinking of myself as like someone who is into fighting for justice. Because like I said earlier, like at that point I was into a lot of like, political activism, but had never considered animal rights or, anything in that realm. And so him saying that just had a big impact on me. I read that book. I remember like getting I must have been in 8th grade or so. And I remember getting kids at my school to chant the Maha Mantra, like, cause I was kind of like a mischievous kid, I was like somewhat disruptive, I guess, in class. And I have like memories of like getting kids to like chant that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I like had this initial phase where I was like all about it,
Yeah.
And then I kind of, got into some other stuff, just started going to shows and just really, I started a band. I started a few bands and always kind of like had a peripheral like affinity for the devotees, and, an interest, but I never really acted on it. I didn't, at that time, I don't know. I have a feeling that the movement, I know that the movement was in a different place than it is now, for sure. It was around 2000, early 2000s. The temple, I think I maybe went once, and it was only brahmacharis, I think, it was, and it was like very sparse, and it just felt like it, now you go to the Sunday feast at like any given temple pretty much. Not during this pandemic, but, obviously like without the pandemic. And I think pretty much across the board, there's usually like a lot of people there, and there's like pretty rousing kirtan. There was still good kirtan, but it was like, I kind of felt a little more of, an outsider, also coupled with the fact that I was like 13 years old. So I was still kind of like a self-conscious teenager.
Sure.
So I wasn't going to the Sunday feast regularly or anything like that. And then after I left Kansas City when I was 18 in 2005, pretty shortly after that, I started touring, constantly playing music, like electronic music. And I would go around the world, and I would always try to visit temples or go to Govindas or whatever, whatever was around.
This
And
was
so I did,
after you were like, what, 14, 15?
yeah. I left home at 18 and pretty much just went traveling for like 10 years, playing music
Right. Yeah.
around the world. Yeah.
And interesting that it was electronic music.
Yeah, Kansas City is like a pretty cool place, or it was a really cool place to grow up. There's all kinds of music coming out of there when I was a kid, and there were kind of underground scenes that were like somewhat adjacent to each other, and I kind of explored all of them. And one of those scenes, there was a big noise scene, just like kind of like all encompassing, like noise music. So I would go to a lot of
Tell
those
us
shows.
what that's like, because I'm not so familiar with
It's
that
what it
genre.
sounds like. It could be anything. It's like there's people who like take toy keyboards and like take them apart and then like reconnect all the wires and make them just like make the craziest sounds. And then maybe they'll like yell over that. Or
Right.
like, people with like big pieces of metal that have like contact microphones like taped to the pieces of
Right. So
metal
it's
and
experimental,
hit it. Just
like
yeah,
fun
it's fun. It's
and abstract
not,
art almost as well.
yeah, totally, exactly. Yeah, there's definitely like, it's something that's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And there's different iterations of it.
Right.
I was like kind of branching out, getting into that. And so that's kind of what got me to like electronic music, but it's not electronic music like Skrillex or EDM or anything like that. It was like, it's like more like Nine Inch Nails or something like that. Like really like distorted beats. And then I would like yell over them. So needless to say, I played a lot of like industrial fests in Germany and stuff like that.
Got it. Okay. No, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks
And
for
then,
opening that up.
sure. Yeah. And then, I just developed some bad habits in that lifestyle, just being on tour constantly, especially as a solo artist.
Yeah.
And so in 2015, I was 28 and I was like, just like, didn't want to become, you see like a lot of these like older, especially like just like old, like dudes in metal bands that just like are like in their 50s. And it looks like they're just so battered down by like the lifestyle. This is not a judgment, on anyone like that. If that's what they want to do, that's cool. But for me, I was seeing that and I was like, I don't want to just wake up one day and be like 50 years old and be like, I don't know how to do anything else in life. Like, I don't like just, it's because once the momentum's going in that lifestyle, it's really easy to get trapped, because it's like, if you're on tour all the time, you don't necessarily like have like a steady job back home that you can just like come back to. It's like you kind of like are in limbo if you're not on tour. Like the uncertainty as I was getting older, it's not something that I wanted to continue in my life. So I was like, I'm gonna like take a break from this and sober up and go back to being vegan. So that was in 2015, and
so you're 32 now.
I'm 33. Yeah.
33.
And and just, in that process, I started training for an Ironman. I like made a goal. I was like, I want to do an Ironman when I'm 30. So I gave myself 2 years to work towards that. So I did a bunch of marathons and smaller triathlons, kind of working up towards that goal. And in that process, like Cro-Mags was never a band that I liked growing up.
Right.
I don't know why. It's just like one of those things where it's like, I didn't get it. I was like, this is cool, but I don't like understand why everyone loves this band. And then one day I woke up and they were like my favorite band ever. So like, obviously they're a Krishnacore band. And so just, I don't know, that it actually feels like a moment of divine intervention, because like they were like always a band that I was like, I don't get this. And then literally like one day I woke up and I was like, this is sick. Like this band is awesome. Like I get it. Like I finally get it. And it's like so good. And and so then like that kind of like, in a way brought me back to Krishna.
Right.
Yeah. So
did you know that they were Krishna conscious?
Definitely. Yeah. Because when I was talking to those brahmacharis back in the day, we got on the topic of Krishnacore, because it was like 2001. So, Krishnacore, I think, was like at its peak in the mid 90s, but, they obviously knew about Shelter and stuff like that. And so they were like, I remember one of them spouting off all these band names, and that was the first time I ever heard of Cro-Mags. Actually, I knew about Shelter because I was really into Youth of Today, but actually like, you might remember this in 2000, you couldn't just go like on YouTube and like look up Shelter.
Right.
Like I remember hearing about Shelter and like knowing about Shelter, but like, and really wanting to hear them, but like not being able to hear them. Like I had a Revelation Records like compilation, and they were on it, and there was one Shelter song. So I knew one Shelter song for like years. It's still my favorite Shelter song.
Which one?
It's called Enough. And they don't play it live, but I really want them to. So yeah.
Nice.
If anyone from Shelter is hearing this, please consider my request.
One of my favorite tracks on the Shelter albums is actually it's obviously doesn't, I don't want to undermine their music, but one of my favorite tracks to listen to was that Stumberdas interview or
Oh
the
yeah.
compilation.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's just so like it's such a good compilation of
Yeah.
like he's so witty and like and like straight down the line.
The one that's like on the end of one of
Yeah.
the albums. It's like 20
Yeah.
minutes long and it's just called like Sermon or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always loved that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your t-shirt right now. It's hard to see it because it's like of the
Oh,
light.
108.
Sick.
It's a
Did you
108.
bleach it?
Yeah, I had bleached it and like tie-dyed it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Fresh. Okay, what else? Like, so you you heard Cro-Mags and you were like, this is the jam. This is what I'm all about now. And then
Well, yeah,
what?
I mean, I always knew in the back of my mind, I think the Brahmachari, he was like, yeah, bands like Shelter, Cro-Mags, 108. And then like, so I always had like Shelter, or I always had Cro-Mags and 108 in the back of my mind. I was like, I got to hear these bands at some point. And like, didn't end up hearing Cro-Mags for, it was a while before I heard them. But I mean, I just, I wasn't into them. And then, yeah, all of a sudden it clicked one day. So.
And then what?
And then, what do you mean?
Like, okay, but so you're that did that just like how did you get into Krishna consciousness from
Right.
there?
Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. So that happened in like, it must have been early 2014 that it clicked for me all of a sudden. So it was like 10 years after I first heard Cro-Mags. Yeah. So it all kind of coincided. Like this would have been probably early mid 2014. I was still, in the midst of like deep, like substance abuse and meat eating and, things that I don't do anymore. And it was just, I see it as like the genesis of like me kind of like coming out of that like very Tamasic period of my life. And like looking back on it now, I'm like, I like see it this way, but obviously as something like that is happening, you're not necessarily aware of it in the moment. But yeah, so just got really into Cro-Mags, and then probably it was, I think, I remember that Thanksgiving announcing like, I'm going to be vegan again, November of 2014. So went back to being vegan. And then it was like, and then I like went back to like, I stopped. I like made the goal to do the Ironman. I was like just watching all these. I was like back at my parents' house trying to dry out, sober up, get my life together, and I was just watching all these YouTube videos of like John Joseph, and then that just kind of like, he must have said something about Krishna or Prabhupada, and that kind of like re-sparked my interest. But as I said, like I always maintain this affinity, this like peripheral awareness and affinity for the devotees. Going to like especially more like eastern parts of Europe, there's like, there's devotees all over the place. And so I would always like, look up to see if there was like a Govindas. And actually, like, I played a lot of shows in Milan. There's a lot of the label that put my records out is based in Milan, and there's a really nice Govindas and a little temple there. So we would go there, and some of the people like working at the Govindas are from like the old like Milan hardcore scene. There was a band in Milan called Govinda Hardcore Project, which is like one of the coolest like Krishna core names, Krishna core band names.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff out there. You can look them up on YouTube, but I think it's like from the 80s or something, but
really?
Called Govinda Hardcore Project.
What are they like?
And like, just like what it sounds like. I mean, this is like a straight up hardcore band. And Italian hardcore definitely has like, if you are familiar with like 80s Italian hardcore, there is like a specific sound to it. I'm not really like the best at articulating what differentiates
sure
80s Italian hardcore from other hardcore, but I mean, there's definitely like, it's like Negazione, but it's like if they were a Krishna core band,
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know how I started talking about that, but I mean, basically I was always like, it's something that I always thought about or was, aware of was Christian consciousness, but obviously just not in a place to like take it seriously or, I don't know. I mean, I think I was under the illusion that I was living, that I wanted to be free and that religion, was gonna somehow tie me down or something. But,
Sure.
I think the opposite is true now. I think
Can you
I was,
explain that?
yeah, I mean, I think that people, there's like a really good, this really good punk meme that I saw that was circulating that like really sums up. I think it's like actually like a Christian conscious meme, and it says like, I say no gods, no masters, but there's no vice that I can deny. And it's like, yeah, I mean, like, you want to be like an anarchist, you want to be like punk, and you want to be like free, yet like there's all these other things that are like dictating like what your life is revolving around. Like you have to like maintain a job so you can support your habit of like partying. You have to like, there's things that you don't see like when you're in that lifestyle, that it's like you are actually like not free. Like you're not walking around free. You're not acting with your free will because you have all these things that you're like tied to, like the substances, like the meme says, there's no vice that you can deny. You're like sacrificing like a higher, like a more like true liberation for this like temporary liberation. And it's like, I sympathize with that. I
Mm.
sympathize with people who are like stuck in this cycle. I mean, it's it's our duty to sympathize with those people, with,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, I'm not even meaning to say those people, because it's like there's an element of me that's still stuck in that.
Right.
We're in the material world for a reason, like we all are going through that to some degree. And I just think that it's so easy to be like, uh screw religion, that's just like tying me down. Like I want to be able to like smoke weed and like have sex and eat whatever I want. Like no one's gonna tell me what to do. But it's like, yeah, like actually these like regulations are there to like help us actually act using our true, like our free will. And yeah, I mean, I mean there's a reason that these behaviors should be regulated, or just not, you shouldn't indulge in those behaviors at all, because it's actually really dark. So
What's that reason? How would you sum it up? What's the reason why these?
just because then you're under the control of like these things that
Mm,
aren't going to give you any sort of happiness.
sure. Yeah. It's powerful, dude.
And it's like you're in this cycle of like, you work a hard job and then you need to like decompress.
Mm,
So you like, you do whatever you need to do to like decompress from that. I mean, it's like so many people, most of, so many people are caught up in that cycle of like, you have to do this job to like maintain, you have to maintain, rent prices are like insane. Everything, it's just like such a stressful world that we live in. And it's like, you want to just do whatever you can to like get some sort of freedom, even just for like a second. So it's like escapism, but
sure.
it's, I think, there's a lot, I've been really into like reading about Varnashram Dharma and just that whole paradigm, the Vedic paradigm. And I think that like it it it, it's really like appealing to me, like to that whole paradigm, because there's like this anti-industrial component to it that I think is like really like right on with like when I was like an anarchist, like wasted, or like even nihilist, anarcho-nihilist, like wasted punk person. I was always like, destroy the machines, like
Right.
and I think a spiritual society is, actually very like egalitarian, and I just think that it's really easy to be wrong about spirituality, like tying you down and thinking that all these like temporary things are going to actually free you. Going off on some tangents, but
no, it's good. It's good. I think you've touched on some really common notions of spirituality and addressed them, really, really well. Tell us about your tattoos. When did you get your first tattoo?
When did I get my first tattoo?
Yeah, and what was it?
I guess that means you can't ask me one of the lightning round questions.
I was thinking about that. I was like,
like, are you still gonna ask me that?
I've got another one in my mind.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know. I started giving myself tattoos when I was like 14, and it's a slippery slope, and I don't recommend it to anybody who doesn't want to end up looking like me.
What, you mean self tattoos or tattoos in general?
Tattoos in general. It's a slippery slope.
Right. I was thinking that yesterday, bro. I was like, I kind of want a tattoo, like something that's just gonna remind me, like on my hand, like,
yeah,
don't forget Krishna or something like that. Something that's genuinely just like a functional tattoo, not really like a decorative.
Oh one. Yeah, no, totally. I mean, that's the only type of tattoo to get in my eyes, a devotional or like one that's gonna remind you of something. And I just, I mean, it's kind of like that whole thing about like you never being satisfied. I mean, it's like you get a tattoo and then you like notice the negative space around it. With ideas, you're like, oh, like something, and I'll like look in the mirror and be like, oh, I should like fill in all this negative space on my face. And then it's like, and then I do it, and then I'm like, oh man, like I should like shave my head and like fill in all that. It's like so I mean, I'm just saying, it's like anything in the material world, it's like a slippery slope and you got to like keep it in check. Right. But I mean, it's cool also. It's like you want to decorate, you want to remodel your hotel room, then go for it.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I was gonna. No, I'll save that for the end. Do you have any? Oh, what's your music that you put out?
Yeah, so my old projects, I had a project called Sewn Leather, and I had a project called Skull Catalog with a K, and I'm like 90% done with a new record under a new name, Breath Drawn Life Deliverance. And it's kind of similar to my old music, but it's a little more accessible. It's like more danceable, and it's like Krishna conscious music.
Is it electronic or?
Yeah, it is.
That's all the music you've ever made is like electronic, but
not all the music I've been in bands that were like punk bands. Oh. But for me, like that's just the easiest way for me to do it.
Right. Yeah. Solo.
Just mostly like using a sampler and like drum machine.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Nice. So that record should be out early next year, hopefully.
Okay. For our listeners who don't really know anything about Krishna consciousness, how would you introduce it? Like, what's it all about?
And it depends on the person. I mean, I do book distribution, so it's kind of like that's like a game that I love to play. It really depends on who I'm talking to, though. Yeah, I mean, like I try to like read people and take in some visual cues about what might resonate with them the best. But because the thing about Krishna consciousness is it's like it goes so deep. There's so many facets about it, especially like I was just talking about Varnashram Dharma. It's like when you're reading like Bhagavatam, you're not just like it's you're getting like Sanskrit lessons, you're getting that's like one of the cool things about it is like it's not like any other sort of like spiritual path that I've ever explored. Granted, I haven't ever explored any other spiritual path this deeply, but it's just like there's so many there's just so many, you know, aspects to talk about, I guess.
What about we start with what's the difference between Buddhism and Krishna consciousness? Because you said you were deeply
God
into
is a
Buddhism
person.
as a kid.
Yeah, totally.
How old were you, by the way? Because you were 13 when you heard about
Yeah,
Krishna, and you said when you were even younger, you're
I was like 6 or 7. Yeah.
wow, that's
Because
incredible.
so I think my mom kind of like cleared this up recently. She was like, you were super into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I was like really into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when I was like 5, like
Yeah.
92. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze.
Okay.
Best movie ever for when I was 5. That's when it came out. And I think that something about being ninjas, you know, got me into, and then like in the third one, they were samurai. And so like something about that, like got me into like Eastern, you know, Eastern religion. And so I was like really like interested in learning about Buddhism, and kind of just, I guess mostly probably just looking at the books for the pictures and stuff like that. And then, you know, Kansas City is a place that's very centered around the arts. It's a very like the Nelson Atkins Art Museum is there. It's like a world-renowned art museum. And I remember they had these like Buddhist monks came through, did a mandala, you know, with like the sand, with like the colored sand, and it's like so beautiful. And then there was a ceremony where they like washed it away. Like I don't really remember what exactly happened, but I think we all like brought vials of the sand down to this creek, Brush Creek, that like runs through Kansas City, and we like poured it into the creek and like washed it, like wash away. And it was kind of like, I guess it was like, I don't really know the philosophy behind it, but just speculating, you know, it was something about how like this like beautiful thing that was like very intricate, you can just get washed away in a moment. That's my speculative summary of what we were doing, looking back on it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, like the main difference is it's like God is a person, personality, has form, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's like there's many different types of Buddhism too. I don't know. I'm not like an expert on Buddhism. I just had a little phase with it when I was like a kid, you know, when I was like 6. I did a what's it called? The 10-day
Vipassana.
Yeah, Vipassana. I did
When did you do that?
Did that up in British Columbia. I actually did that like in 2016.
Yeah. How was it?
I was already it was good. It was cool. It was interesting. It was like I was already getting back into chanting japa, and then it was like now I like can't do that for 10 days. But you know, it was up in the woods of British Columbia, which was like pretty cool, and definitely kind of challenging not to talk, but I also didn't know anyone there. We all, you know, you don't even make eye contact with people when you're there. And then on the halfway through the 10th day, they let you talk again, or like, not they let you, but like, you know, people talk again halfway through the 10th day. And it's like really hard to talk at first. It was like hard to like form sentences, and like hard to like connect my thoughts to my words. And it was like an interesting, like not knowing how to talk for a second, for maybe 30 minutes or an hour. We were kind of all like struggling to like
awkward
form coherent sentences. Yeah.
Wow. Did you find people were like I mean in general and at Vipassana especially, do you find people were like checking out your tattoos and like, whoa, what's this site?
Not exactly. I'm pretty oblivious to that at this point. The only thing is like when I was in India, definitely. I was in India recently, and like it was mostly like it felt, I've been in places where like I've received a lot of attention that felt kind of like rude or negative. In India, overwhelmingly, like I felt love and appreciation from people, and that was cool. Yeah, so I mean, the Vipassana thing, I don't ever remember anything coming up about the tattoos. I remember like we would watch these videos with Goenka, the guy that brought like Vipassana to the West, I guess. We'd watch a video of him every night, and there was like a video where he was like, it seemed like he was taking shots at Krishna consciousness, like kind of like covertly, like he would be like, yeah, like other forms of meditation, like where the god like wants you to just like recite their name so that they can feel all up or something like that. And I was like, damn.
Shots fired.
Yeah, shots fired. Like, yeah, so it was funny. I mean,
what would you say to that? Because that's a big philosophical point. Like, I mean, what's there for me is like,
I don't think it's that simple that it's like Krishna wants you to recite his name so that he can feel puffed up. I think that's a very like it's a very simplistic way of looking at it, and it's ingenuine. It's disingenuous, maybe is the word. It's insincere, and I think it's just like kind of it's not very tasteful. And I think that Goenka seems to me like somebody who should know better than that.
yeah.
I guess I'm firing shots now, but it's like that's what's disingenuous about it. Is like I think that when people say stuff like that, they're just like being willfully ignorant.
So what's the positive side of it? I mean, like, why do you chant?
Why do I chant?
Yeah.
Because it works and it's real, and it's like, I mean, sometimes it feels like I'm just going through the motions, but most of the time there's oh man, I need to like, I was gonna like try to quote myself, but I'm like there's a lyric in one of my songs where it's like where I talk about like I say your name, I hear it, and it's like I feel it.
I think you're covering the microphone with your finger or something.
Oh no.
Just for that tiny moment there. I could still hear you, but faintly. So you have to start again. Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't saying anything that matters anyways. I was just talking about myself.
No, I heard it. It was just muffled. So, but I want to hear you say it again.
Yeah. There's a lyric in one of my songs where I say like, I say your name, I feel you hear it. I'm like trying to remember what song it is even, but
that's beautiful, man. I say your name, I feel you hear it. That's beautiful, man.
It makes more sense in the context of the rest of the lyrics, but I'm blanking on the rest of them right now. There's also a hook in one of the songs where I say, in the morning when I chant my rounds, my consciousness is purified by the sound. And I think that's totally true. I mean, there was maybe 2 or 3 years where I was chanting 1 round of japa a day, and it was nice. And it was like, I'm doing 1 round, and then kind of like started working my way up to more, and then talked to like one of my teachers, and he was like, you should really just set a number, and you don't have to do 16 a day. Just set a number and do that, commit to that. So the number I set was 8. And so I did 8 for a while. And then, when the pandemic hit and we're on lockdown, I was like, well, I don't have anything going on. Like, I should start waking up at Brahma Muhurta, because I knew that was like, that I felt good waking up at that time, and just do my 16 rounds, especially now that I'm like aspiring under Vaisheshika. And, I need to start taking it more seriously. So, and then in that, like, since I started doing 16, probably about almost 4 months ago at this point, I've been doing 16 every morning. And it's like, you just feel like you feel it, like it's real. Like, I don't know. I don't know like what to say other than that, but it's like the Bob is like real, like it's exponentially like more. I feel more like just I feel Krishna's presence or something, it's like that's why I chant, because it works and it's real. And I don't even want to think about like how I would be if I missed a day of getting my 16 rounds in. So,
That's awesome, dude.
yeah.
I think a lot of people, if someone asked me that, I'd probably give a philosophical answer like, well, the Maha Mantra is non-different from Krishna and things
Yeah.
like this. But I like that you just speak from experience and, the quality of the feeling that you get, the buzz. Like,
I would say
that's
that, the quality of my life has like gone up. But I think, it's something that like the more serious you take your sadhana, like the more benefit you'll get. That's not a reason to do sadhana, but it's like a nice kind of side effect of, being engaged in your sadhana every day.
very cool.
It shouldn't be the motivating factor in why you do it, but it is, it definitely is a factor.
That's
And I
very
mean,
cool.
especially coming from someone who was so skeptical. I went to Catholic school my whole life. It made me very skeptical of like religion, spirituality, whatever, however you want to call it. So I'm someone who's skeptical, and that is just the tangible like effects of the chanting, and it's just something that resonates with me personally. It's like I'm actually able to like feel the effect.
Yeah, very
Are you able to hear me? Is everything?
No, everything's gone. Okay. Yeah, it's beautiful. What are you reading at the moment?
Right now I'm reading this really interesting book. It's called Tritya Prakriti, People of the Third Sex, and the subtitle is, oh god, it's like understanding transgender identity, intersex and homosexuality through Hinduism. And it's published by the Gay and Lesbian Vaishnav Association, which is a really elusive group. I'm like almost like coming up with conspiracy theories in my mind about like how the author isn't a real person, because I haven't been able to find any much about them. And I'm really like, I really want to, like, I want to connect. Right. Because I think that would be a really cool person to interview for the Bhakti interviews, which we haven't even talked about yet. Yeah. But yeah, like, it's just such a cool book. It's super thick. It's like 600 pages long, and it's very deep. And I'm in school for Ayurveda right now, and there's a lot of like cross-referencing. Like there's like he's talking about like Sushruta and Charaka Samhitas, which are like, part of the major 3 classical Ayurvedic texts. So he's referencing those. He's referencing like Srimad Bhagavatam. It's all like Gaudiya. It's all, it's a Prabhupada disciple wrote the book. So I was just kidding about him not being a real person. I'm just like, I want to like connect with the person. So yeah, that's what I'm reading. I'm reading that. I also got a copy of the 7th Goswami, which is like kind of a rare book about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And it's cool because like, it's like kind of expensive, and like, it's not the version that was like in the picture. It's like a Xeroxed version, but it's like, and I'm like, dang, I just paid like $50 for like a Xerox book. But it's like, it's kind of like, I like that. Like, I think that's like really cool, because it's like, it reminds me of like a punk zine. It's like, yo, this is like punk before punk was punk.
That's funny.
It's like very DIY, and it's like all of the pictures in it are like super blown out. It's like, it's really cool. It's like, I think like some people would be like pretty bummed, if like they paid a bunch of money for this rare book and they got the version that wasn't the version that was advertised or whatever. But I'm stoked about it. So I got that. I'm like reading that, and I've just started 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam recently, so I'm reading that. I try to stay reading. I love books. It's all about books are the basis, baby.
Nice, brother. Tell us about your interviews. How'd you get like started on that, and like why do you do it? Just anything. Tell us.
Another Kiwi,
Really?
Bhakta Edwin. Do you know him?
Yeah, he's a cool guy. Yeah, he's friends with me on Facebook. Oh no, is he? Anyway, I'll let him know that you're
Yeah. He got me because he has these two Instagrams. He has straight edge interviews and he has vegan interviews.
Right.
And and he and you know he's Krishna curious. And I was like, dude, like, Prabhu, you should do like a one where you interview devotees too. And he was like, I don't feel qualified. I think you should do it.
Ah,
And I was like, okay, like I'll accept that challenge. So it kind of it happened like it was kind of like a challenge. I don't think he meant it necessarily as a challenge, but I'm an Aries and I'm a Pitta person, very Pitta. So I'm very like competitive and I like to take on challenges. So not that I'm in competition with him at all, but just like yeah, it was like a nice I had never even considered that. I was like, you should do it. And he's like, actually, you should do it. And I was like, yeah, like I'll do it. Fine. So I feel like I'm doing it with his blessing, you know?
that's
And
cool.
and we support each other. So
Nice.
it's what he's doing is cool too. I think, you know, everyone should check out vegan interviews on Instagram and straight edge interviews also.
Yeah, and he makes a zine as well. So I actually reached out to him on WhatsApp just like 2 days ago, and I was like, "Yo, how's your zine going?"
Yeah.
But, anyway,
Yeah. So that's how I started doing it. And I started doing it in September of last year, 2019, when I was living in my car outside of the Denver Radha Krishna temple.
who's the most interesting person you've interviewed so far, or what's your favorite one?
Oh man. Well, that's a really hard question. I really enjoyed hearing from the person who started ISCOUT, the International Society for Cow Protection. But you know, it's really hard. It's hard to say who my favorite is. Something that I like in the interviews is kind of left field answers. There's someone who I interviewed who is not necessarily like in ISKCON or maybe not even in Gaudiya Math, who's just like a scholar on like Vaishnav studies. Like I like hearing from people like that. I mean, I love hearing from all of the devotees, obviously, but it's like it's interesting to me to kind of like hear from people that we, you know, Krishna consciousness movement is like it's less insular than it used to be, but it's still quite clicked up and kind of insular.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to just hear from people that are not necessarily like a part of the Krishna consciousness movement, but or maybe not that's not the right phrase, but maybe just people that are kind of like saying something that not everyone else is saying, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, you know, I interviewed myself and I think I'm kind of like guilty of this. I probably said like the best book is like Science of Self-Realization. And it's like, yeah, that is objectively like one of the best books that sums up, you know, what Krishna consciousness bhakti yoga is about. But it's also cool to like hear from somebody who's like referencing some like text that I have never heard of, you know, because then it's like I go look up that book and I'm like, oh, like this is like interesting. I should get a copy of this. Like, you know, I should look into this. I should read this. And it's like, it's important that we're well-rounded. I think, you know, as devotees, it's easy to just be like, you know, I only read books that are published by the BBT or something like that. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's important to kind of, you know, realize that there is a larger world of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, you know, that it's like what Srila Prabhupada did is undeniably like amazing, and it's like a gift to the world, and you know, informing ISKCON. But I think there's a lot, there's a whole world out there, you know. It's important that we branch out, and that helps us relate to other devotees, you know, from other mutts.
Right.
You know, we're all trying to spread Krishna consciousness. We should all be friends.
Sure. I'm interviewing Shyama
Right
in a
on.
couple of weeks. Yeah.
Right on.
She's a
Yeah.
massive inspiration to me.
She's amazing.
Yeah. Let's do a quick fire round, but
Okay.
this has got to be the
Yeah,
quickest quick fire round
this went
ever.
by really fast.
Yeah, it has.
I want to keep going for like hours.
Usually my quick fire rounds are pretty slow because of the people I interview. I don't know why, but because we've only got 2 minutes until it's an hour.
Oh my
Let,
goodness.
let's
I
let's
don't know
make
if
this like a
I don't
machine
know.
gun round.
No, I don't know if I can do that. That's a
That's
lot of
okay.
pressure.
Just
I'll
just
try.
just do your best. Yeah.
I'll try.
Just be twice as quick as you usually would be. That would do. So what's your
Okay. No
favorite thing in
promises.
your all right. Favorite thing in your closet right now?
Dochi and Kurta.
What's the best piece of advice you've received?
Maybe not the best, but the one that's top of mind is never trade a definite for an indefinite. And that came to me from my godbrother, Madhuri Piradas. And he got it from somebody else, but he quotes it to me a lot because, well, we don't have to get into that because this is a lightning round. But yeah, never trade a definite for an indefinite, you know? Never like,
Yeah.
I think, okay, I got to expound on that a little bit.
All right, do it.
Just because I think like in this, in the world, we'll get comfortable, we'll get in a routine, and then maybe we'll like be like, we need something to spice up our life. We need something to like, I need to like take a chance or like do something, like I need to like move somewhere else or whatever. And it's like,
right.
It's sometimes that is the move to make, it depends on the circumstances, but most of the time, it's like you don't want to trade something that you have like definite. If sadhana is important to you and you're in a good routine, don't throw some sort of like crazy wild card into the mix that could potentially knock you out of your good routine with your sadhana. It's like simple as that.
That's cool, bro. That I'll keep that in mind because I'm actually thinking of moving right now.
Make your priorities your priorities. If you're gonna do that move and you can see that there's gonna be some potential hindrance into what's really important to you, it's maybe reconsider.
Good stuff.
I mean, that's good advice for me particularly, that's like,
yeah,
because I have a tendency to move around a lot.
Yeah. No, thank you. Do you have any pets?
No pets.
Describe yourself as a teenager in 3 words.
Oh God. Surly, punk, atheist.
Biggest pet peeve?
Oh man. The tendency of others to be hypercritical, I guess. Or the tendency of myself to be hypercritical. Criticism in general. It's not conducive. It's not the right move, not be like, what is it? Be harsh on yourself and lax with others, pretty much. Yeah.
Nice. Dark chocolate, milk chocolate, or carob?
Carob. Hell yeah.
Authentically?
Old school vegan right here. Like
oh yeah, true.
I mean,
but dark chocolate's vegan, isn't it?
Dark chocolate's vegan, but it's got caffeine. We're devotees. That's a trick question. I appreciate it. You're trying to trip me up.
No, I have dark chocolate.
I know. I'm kidding. Yeah, but no, I do like carob. I like carob a lot. And if you gave me a choice between the 3, obviously, like milk, I'm not gonna do under any circumstance. But yeah, like carob. I love carob. It's good. I like it. I don't know. And it's back in the day, that's like, I feel like all the vegan treats were like made with carob, even though like dark chocolate is vegan. I don't know. Right. I have like an affinity for like the old like hippie vegan food that's like kind of weird,
Right. Yeah, sure. No, that's cool. And I should have. I mean, your answer is on your neck. For the middle one about milk chocolate, I should have said Sweet Williams.
I don't know what that is, but that
You
sounds
serious?
cool.
It's a vegan chocolate brand.
Oh yeah, probably. Okay, that one. That's the one. But I do
Okay,
love carob.
sure. All right. If you could be from any other decade or era, what would it be?
Man. Oh man. I should have done better with this. I would love to be like, in West Bengal at the time of Chaitanya. I think that would be so cool.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
totally. Yeah, that's a nice answer.
Or I mean, second runner up would be like at the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, like at the
Ooh,
end of the 19th century, or like the
nice.
19th century, I guess it would be.
That's cool. You might have been.
Yeah.
If you weren't in, if you weren't making electronic music, wait, is that full time for you? Like, what do you do for a job?
No, not at all. My job is I do book distribution, but I don't really look at that as a job. And then I work for this company called Sway, who they're a company that does like upcycling. Like they did a project where they took a bunch of these like Patagonia jackets, the brand Patagonia, that had like slight defects or like were unsellable for some reason, and then they like cut them up and then sewed them together like so that they like look really cool. Stuff like that, like just taking like consumer waste and then like turning it upcycling,
Yeah,
just
that's
turning
cool.
them into really cool stuff. So I run errands for them and I do packaging for them. I go there like, whenever they, pretty much every day for like 5 hours a day. And then I do whatever they need me to do. So it's a cool
That's
job.
cool.
It's a really chill company to work for. Sway, Suay, So Shop, SEWSHOP. Little plug for them.
I think I've seen that on Instagram.
Yeah.
If you weren't doing that, what would you be doing?
Dude. Probably still playing music. I don't know. I mean, before that job, my main thing was just going out and doing books and trying to like, live off the donations and put some of the donations, into buying more books from the temple. And the local temple president was kind enough to just let me keep any like of the extra donations so that I could support myself, which was really cool. So probably just going hard doing books, but I don't know. I haven't been able to really distribute much. I did distribute a Gita today, which was cool. It was like the
Wow,
first Gita I had distributed in a while. So
beautiful, man.
that was nice.
What's on your playlist right now?
Oh man, so much Drake. Lots of Drake. I mean, hello?
Yeah,
Are you there?
yeah,
Did my mic? I think my microphone muted for a second.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the playlist, but pretty much like I have a playlist that's like all kirtan, and I'm driving around a lot during the day. So it's like I'm either listening to my Gurudev on podcast, or I'm listening to your podcast, listening to Wisdom of the Sages, listening to Mother Urmila Devi Dasi's podcast, listening to Denver Radhakrishna Temple podcast. Yeah, I mean, I also have a running playlist. I'm an ultra runner, so I run a lot, and I'm listening to like a lot of very like Rajasic Karmi music, like Future, Drake, stuff like Earth Crisis. Basically, music that like gets you really pumped up in like a way that's not conducive to like devotional life. Gets you really like, I don't know, like.
Right.
But
I know what you mean.
I got Indra on my running playlist too, because he gets me
Nice.
pretty worked up.
Yeah.
So it's nice to kind of yeah, I don't know. Trying to think like what else. Like I'm trying to think like who's like a friend of mine that I can plug that I've been listening to. Fishnark, he's good. He's like a rapper. He helped me a little bit on my newest record. His stuff is cool. Yeah, I don't know, just everything. But yeah, definitely lots of Drake and Future.
Cool.
And 3 6 Mafia. Stuff
Um,
that a lot of stuff that devotees aren't supposed to be listening to, so you can just edit that stuff out.
too bad we're live on Facebook. Oh, we got Basha Shaker Peru watching.
Oh
Jokes. This is one that's not on the list here, but who do you think is the Mataji of Ayendra, or the Ayendra of Matajis?
The Ayendra of Mataji's? Achyuta Gopi.
I think
Achyuta
so
Gopi.
too.
Yeah, without a doubt, of course.
Yeah.
Like 100 million%.
Yeah. If you could have any three people, dead or alive, over for dinner, who would they be?
Srila Prabhupada. Okay, here's an interesting one. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada. And Narayan Miraj. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati.
Wow. Yeah. That'd be a very interesting conversation. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, Narayan Miraj, Srila Prabhupada, and Bhaktisiddhanta.
If your house was on fire, what two things would you run back in to get?
Joppa bag, and probably try to carry out the whole Srimad Bhagavatam under my arm. I know it's like 18 books, but does that count as one thing?
Yeah, I mean, book distribution back in the day, right? Devotees would carry around a big stack like this.
I think some devotees still do.
That's amazing. Name a book that, well, you just answered it, that positively shaped you. But no, it could be a different one.
There's a good book called Finding Ultra by Rich Roll. That's really good. Do you know him? He's got a good pod. He's one of his podcasts pretty much changed my life too.
Yeah, right.
Coincided with that whole period of me getting out of like the Tomasic era of my life. Yeah, Finding Ultra and Eat and Run by Scott Jurek. Those are two really good books that are cool. Outside of the realm of Krishna consciousness.
What's your favorite Krishna conscious book?
Oh,
you said Science of Self-Realization before, but
yeah,
maybe it's different.
I think, well, no, that's an answer that I used. That was like, if you want to describe, or like, what's a book that's good at summing up Bhakti Yoga?
Yeah, sure.
So it is one of my favorites for sure. But I think I'm really into like all these biographies and maybe not autobiographies, but the biographies of Srila Prabhupada or any of the acharyas are like really interesting to me. But Swami in a Strange Land for sure is really good, and Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. Both of the volumes that are out right now are really good. You said Krishna conscious book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Higher Taste. It's important. I think its importance is somewhat understated. I think that there should be an emphasis on circulating that one more, especially in the current climate, social climate, cultural climate. Yeah.
If you had a spirit animal, what would it be?
A macaque.
Macaque.
No, yeah, it's interesting. Also, during that time, like same time around like the Buddhist phase, I was like obsessed with macaques. And macaques are what?
What are they?
It's a type of monkey, and it's actually the type of monkey that's in Vrindavan.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, the rhesus macaques. So it's like interesting, like that was like the specific monkey that I was into, and like those are the monkeys that are in Vrindavan.
Are they anywhere else or just in Vrindavan?
No, they're like in the Himalayas and northern India. I think probably like Nepal. Yeah, like that area of the world.
Sure. Do you have a favorite TV show?
I don't watch.
This is just a list that I got from the internet, by the way.
Yeah, I don't watch TV, but I do like following Srila Prabhupada. That's so good. Like
Mm.
I finished the whole series recently, and I just started over because it's like
Wow.
it's
Nice. That's
so
a
good.
lot of footage. That's
It's
like
a lot of footage.
hours. It's like
Yeah,
hundreds of
yeah,
hours.
yeah. So yeah, that's I mean, I'll just watch it in like 10-minute increments, or like whatever, or like I watch it for 2 hours if I have 2 hours
Yeah.
somehow. But yeah. Yeah,
Do you
following
have
Srila
any?
Prabhupada. And your ever
Nice.
well wisher is really awesome too.
Nice. That's
Oh
cool.
wait, also and in God's name. That one's from like 1973. It's like Madhurya Swami in Australia.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think it's maybe like an hour long, but it's like an Australian like documentary about like the life of a bhakta. And there's like some cool scenes in there. It's on YouTube. It's called In God's Name, and there's some cool scenes where like the devotees are acting out the pastime of like Sri Chaitanya and the Chand Kazi, the Kazi.
I'm definitely gonna look that up.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so here's the tattoo one. If
I have no
you
tattoos.
if you could have any tattoo, anything on the inside of your eyelids, what would it be?
Oh man, probably Radha Krishna.
Wow.
I mean, what other answer is there?
That's cool. Best gift you ever received?
The holy name.
If you had, this is the last one. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Attentive chanting.
What does that mean?
It means like the ability to chant japa without ever being distracted ever. Just like full on one pointed.
Beautiful, man. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, man. Getting to know you and hearing your story, and yeah, I think.
Yeah, this is fun. I thought it was going to be more about the Bhakti interviews Instagram.
I don't know how we could talk about that for a whole hour, but maybe you could. I mean, probably
I
could.
don't think I could, but yeah, I don't know what I just like. This was really cool, and I'm like stoked that you asked me to do it. And yeah, everyone go check out Bhakti interviews. Do you mind if I do a little plug for a
Do it.
second?
Yeah, usually at the end I say, what are you working on? How can people get in touch with your work? So do it. Tell us.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Bhakti interviews. Bhakti interviews on Instagram. There's probably 90 interviews up. I probably have sent out like 400 emails. So if you got some questions in your inbox, feel free to answer them. And if you would like to do an interview, hit me up. I'm easy. Just get in the DMs. It's been really fun, like hearing from everybody, and I'm hoping to increase association and maintain association, and help us all kind of like connect, much like you're doing with this. I think what we're doing, it's like two sides of the same coin, and I'm really happy that you're doing this, and I think it's a wonderful service, and please keep it up. And thank you so much for asking me to be a part of it.
No, my pleasure.
Cool.
Who do you think I should interview next that you know?
Who do I think that you should interview next that I know? Oh, you should interview Prahlad Priya, Madhu's dad.
Who's dad?
Madhuri Piradas.
Oh,
Madhu Kirtan
his dad.
on yeah, you should interview his dad.
Huh, okay. Why is
He's
that?
a Prabhupada disciple. He's amazing. He's like,
well, that explains a lot about Madhu.
Yeah. There's like a whole story there. But he was helping run Bala Books back in the day with Yogeshwar. Yogeshwar would be cool. The Kaustubha Das and Raghunath would obviously be amazing to interview. Totally. Yeah, but yeah, no, you should get Prahlad Priya. I think that would be really cool.
All right.
I can put you guys in touch.
All right, I'm going to end the recording and we can just catch up.
Cool. Sounds good.